Don Cheadle just chewing up the scenery. Algae Rhythm. Space Jam, directed by Malcolm D. Lee, stars LeBron James as himself with some Looney Tunes. I don't know if this movie actually needed to be made. I think it's about 10 years too late, but I mean, it's a family movie, it's a kids movie, and I mean, I guess one of the positives I can give this movie for sure is the animation is outstanding. Every scene is crisp and clear, even the Looney Tunes and the different worlds that they visit, recruiting more Looney Tunes and more people to play for the game. It's really out there with the animation. I can definitely give it props for that. It's all the money definitely went there. Everywhere else, though, the movie suffers from bland, boring characters. LeBron James, regardless if you think that he's one of the best basketball players of our time, acting-wise, he plays himself, and as himself, he is a stoic, no fun, straight-to-business kind of person. And it really contrasts that with his son, one of his sons that wants to become a video game creator and is more leaning towards that instead of basketball. And LeBron is really having a hard time connecting with his son. In this movie, thematically, there are things in here that could have been fleshed out a little bit better between LeBron and his son. LeBron learning to become a better father, and his son being manipulated by the evil AI algorithm dude played by Don Cheadle. There could have been a lot of cool things fleshed out there, but it took a couple steps forward, but it took 3 steps back in almost every other department. As far as a kids movie, think of this more as like a SpongeBob movie. Just no high stakes, just kind of things are just happening, just a lot of visual noise just popping out here and there. Now, contrasting that with the original Space Jam with Michael Jordan, the reason why that movie was made is because Michael Jordan was one of the biggest stars in the world. He was transitioning from playing basketball to baseball, and then baseball back to basketball. And in that time, he was one of the best basketball players ever. Going into baseball, he didn't really do that well. He had some merits and he did show some promise, but ultimately he decided to go back into basketball. And in that time that he went back, it was brilliant marketing on behalf of Warner Brothers, taking Michael Jordan's real life events and making that into a Looney Tunes movie. And that was kind of like a resurgence of his career. So that movie, I understood why that got made. I have no idea why this movie got made, and also why it took 10-15 years for this movie to even come out. They could have definitely made a Space Jam 2 like 10 years ago with like Kevin Garnett or whoever was on top of the basketball world back then, and then just keep making this franchise, building it up to this one or whatever. They could have definitely had the franchise there, but this movie doesn't really serve as to any reason why it was made. I feel like it was just Warner Brothers having this idea. It was like, hey, we can do this, and we have LeBron James, why not? And it is interesting that they take a lot of their properties and they put them into this movie. However, at the end of this movie, there's a giant game that decides the fate of all of the characters of Warner Brothers. And if you pause the movie, you can actually see almost every character of every franchise the Warner Brother has ever made, which is a lot. And you can kind of take it as a giant push to go to HBO Max for sure. I mainly saw it as every kid going into this movie is just going to shout, oh, there's King Kong, there's, Batman, there's there's the whatever, the who's, and ultimately it's just going to be visually distracting from what's actually going on. Obviously, this is a kid's movie. I think this movie could have been better if they focused more on the father-son dynamic for sure. And the Looney Tunes don't even get introduced until halfway through the movie. You could say that for the original Space Jam, but in the original Space Jam, they were still building out things, and there were still hints of characters, and just the way that they were used was more practical, and they just had better scenes, I guess, because in the original movie, you have Bugs and Daffy going into Michael Jordan's house in the real world and having to find a pair of shorts and shoes so that Michael Jordan can play for the Looney Tunes. And it's really interesting how you get to see these 2D characters interacting with the real world. And I get goosebumps just thinking about that, like how they were able to, a 2D character is able to turn on a light and then somehow the light turns on. Like, it's all these little things that, like, it's brilliant directing, but like here I just don't understand why this movie got made or what was even the point. There really wasn't that many cool things in here. There's good concepts, but at the end of the day it just kind of falls very flat. Obviously it's a kids movie, so if you want to take your kids to go see this, by all means, but there are much better movies out there to see. But we are flooded with thousands of streaming programs, so I'm pretty sure you can find something on Disney for sure if you want to have a good family time. Disney's super cheap. It's like less than $7 a month. You can definitely find a better family movie in there, like The Incredibles. That's definitely a much better family film, well-rounded, 1 and 2. Just watch The Incredibles. Other than that, can't really recommend seeing this movie, so thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.